Welcome to Venti Question Screen Discussions. I'm Chris.
And I'm Michael, and this is a show where we talk about everything from the silver screen to the small screen and even the streaming screen you may carry in your pocket.
That is right. So we're going to put 30 minutes on the clock and then give our opinion on what we just watched. So Michael, what did we just watch?
Well, we just got done watching Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Sure did.
So I will say that definitely we had some opinions that we wanted to talk about that we were waiting the entire drive home to be able to get into.
Yeah. Didn't say a thing beforehand, so we're just going to air it out now.
I'm currently going ahead to pull up a 30-minute timer, and we are going to get going in 3, 2, 1, a go.
Boo.
All right, so the very first thing, I really liked it.
Okay.
Let me just start out with that. I very much enjoyed it. There was some issues that I feel were not nearly as glaring as some of the more recent MCU outings.
Sure.
So I was happy with that.
Okay.
And there was a lot of things that I was just like, I still kind of think that's cool. So overall, I was very happy with it. I liked their post-credit scenes. I think they were both great. That's like my overall thought process, just like getting it out of throwing it out right away.
Okay.
What about you?
I wouldn't go as far as saying it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it didn't live up to the expectations I had for it.
Okay.
If I'm to be honest, I think, and I know the reason why. I 100% know the reason why. And we'll get into like acting and dynamic and stuff like that. But I want to say out of the Ant-Man movies, it was probably the weakest when it came to dialogue exchange between characters.
Okay.
And the familiarity of each other and like that cohesiveness, where they're playing off each other. Okay. And I know part of that, I know why. It's because most of the movie, if not all the movie, was probably filmed in green screen rooms, and they weren't interacting with the physical world around them in any part of this. So the actors themselves, it was probably a lot more difficult to be able to focus and be able to exchange like dialogue or interact with things that were familiar, like a can or a bottle or this or whatever it is, any of those like acting things that you see in movies where, those props come into play. That just wasn't happening. So I think it lost me a little bit on the connection in characters and how they were, as I said, the character exchanges. That and a lot of the characters they were interacting with was partially or mostly CGI. So it was a little bit different than some of, I guess, the other movies because of that. And I felt it,
Okay.
It's interesting.
Okay. Let's start going it with plot.
Okay. Out of all of them, I think.
Out of all of the categories of a movie, the plot was, I think, very good and also atrocious because it fell onto the singular trope that is my least favorite trope of all time, which is, hi, I'm a character that has all this information that could prevent the entirety of this movie from happening. But because I don't want to talk about it, all these bad things are going to happen.
And you're speaking of Janet. Right. So she's got this hidden secret that we were all waiting for, and she didn't want to tell anyone. And because she didn't open her mouth and say something to clue
anything.
Yeah. Like, hey, here's the reason this is bad. There's a whole world of people that, just in case you want to know, like, and there's some bad stuff going on. She didn't have to say that what part she had in it or whatever that is, but like.
And that's the other thing. Okay. She's so ashamed of the fact that she helped somebody that she knew nothing about, who he tricked her.
Yeah.
And then technically he did offer her to escape. And I think he truly did mean it. Hey, I won't mess with you, because he was doing like an eye for an eye. Yeah. You helped me and I promised. He did seem to be a man of his word, which also really made me angry then at the end. Because I feel like that was a departure of the character.
Right.
But anyway, I digress. That was not nearly as important as the fact that if she would have just explained to her husband, her child, her grandchild, or her son-in-law, kinda, I don't think they're actually married, but you know what I'm saying. He's basically family. Yeah. Then it wouldn't have been her grandchildren, because technically, anyway,
Michael, at least tell the aunts. I don't like
somebody
do something here.
It just didn't make sense, and even after they get shrunk down and they're in the quantum realm, there was multiple times where she was just like, no, we don't have time to talk. And it's just like, you kind of do, man.
There's plenty of time to say the things she needed to say. Right.
There's plenty of travel time.
Right.
And if you explained it on screen in less than 5 minutes, we know for a fact you were traveling for at least a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That is one of the biggest tropes I can't stand, is when a character intentionally omits critical information from the group, which then causes either the entirety of the plot or it increases like the danger that the group then has to take in. And I just don't like that.
To me, they could have fixed that if they even said a throwaway line about like her understanding timelines and how that kind of worked based upon her vision of him in different timelines. Just say like, if I would have told you, it could have altered a decision you would have made that would have caused.
That would have worked. Or
that's it.
They could have gone freaking like, Days of Our Lives and just gave her situational amnesia.
Sure.
That would have been fine too.
Right.
Because her special power that she had.
Where that, yeah.
What happened to that?
Well, she could open doors. It's basically what happened with that.
Well, no, once you see everybody else in the world and how they interact with that, that's just freaking Tony Stark level.
Right. But she was taking
technology.
She learned that there and took that with her to.
Sure. Yeah, I know. Here's my other thing. This actually bothered me.
Got one too.
Where are all the cons? Why is it that when what's her name? Wow, what's the kid's name?
You're saying cons. I'm sorry. Say that again.
The cons. Michael Pena's character, T.I.'s character, the other guy's character.
Oh, the con. Okay.
All the cons. I'm sorry. The three main supporting characters in the last two movies.
I knew none of them were in it.
I did not.
That was the thing I knew that you didn't know.
Gotcha. What I knew that you didn't know was that the Darren Cross character was back and he was Modoc.
Right.
That pissed me off.
I didn't know that.
The YouTube fucked that up for me.
Sorry.
So here's my thing. But where were they? Why is it that when Cassie, now I think of her name. Cassie went to jail twice and her stepfather was never brought up, nor is he on screen in this movie. Her mother is brought up multiple times, but hasn't been on screen since the second one. Didn't show up in any of the previous movies.
Yeah, no, all of that. That's my problem.
Where is everyone?
That's my problem with the plot in this movie.
Why were they not at the little fake birthday party? They were all hunky-dory and all team like high fives, Team Scott, when he was at home arrest, and we're super excited for him to finally get out. And now, if they are still alive, which they allude to the fact that they are still alive, why were they not in this movie?
Yeah.
I feel like that was a big oversight.
It's either a big oversight or that was intentional and it gets explained somewhere else where that's not the same like realm or
like it's a different universe that we're playing around in.
Right. Where that's where he's talking to himself like, wait, we did that, right? He's gone, right? And then it's like,
that was clever, but they didn't pay it off.
No. Yeah, they didn't pay it off. So when I'm talking plot and continuity between movies, like as Ant-Man and what movies? Right. Ant-Man and the Wasp movies. That's the miss for me. It's you got none of the familiar characters. You didn't even get the same actress, which I understand why. For Cassie,
we talked about that, and I disagree with the why. I understand why they couldn't have her in Endgame because she wasn't old enough.
Sure,
but now she is old enough to have been that kid.
Yeah, but she just didn't fit the role because
I get it. Whatever.
I don't know. But anyway, I just. You didn't get that any connection to those characters that you grew up with, essentially. Really none of them, except for like that immediate family. But
yeah, the whole thing about Scott was the fact of him and his found family. Mm-hmm. And none of his found family was in this movie.
It could have been an end credit scene and I would have felt okay with it.
I would have been, if they would have just been at the dinner table.
Right.
Not a single line.
Right.
I would have been like, okay, cool. Because they weren't important for this.
Right.
And I get that.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't like that too much.
That was a problem.
And like I said, plot is sounds so dumb. It's like, well, plot's the whole freaking movie. Yeah. It's not in a Marvel movie. It's not. But plot was the biggest disappointment for me.
I didn't like it's okay. I don't want to say I didn't like. It was too familiar. The trope, as you mentioned, like, oh yeah, now they're going to come and they're going to help this world, rebel and rise against and do this thing. And then like, you're going to get all your typical characters who come and this
Heroes
one dies and that one,
yeah.
right. That kind of thing. Heroes from above. And you're going to get, oh, it's all because she made that mistake. And the whole thing's about sorry, making mistakes, but then it's what you do, with those mistakes and blah, blah, blah. And you can always room for growing. Right. So, there were some cool things like that.
Line.
Right. There were the jokes, I wouldn't say didn't land. There were some good ones.
There were some good jokes that landed,
but they weren't
enough to save the plot. No.
And they didn't do what they normally do to connect the characters. There was only a few of them. And it was before they went into the quantum realm.
Oh, like when they were at the dinner table.
And they
I guess that was technically like a lunch table. It was daytime.
They ragged on Scott for the book, and they gave him a hard time, about that. And they all played off to kind of do that. That was great. And that was the only time
like
where
the
it felt
dynamics
like
that they would have had with the previous casts.
Right.
So, okay, here's the overall, though. So I don't want to spend our entire 30 minutes here just on the plot. I want to talk about the good parts of the plot.
Yeah.
Which was anything and everything that had to do with Kang.
King was the Redeemer. Amazing. He conquered that movie.
Jonathan Majors knocked it out of the frickin' park.
I really like him. I like him in everything I've seen him in so far.
This is like a pause on our 30 minutes. I'm now even more excited for Creed 3.
Oh, yeah.
Back into this movie. Yeah. So he was so good that you felt bad for him. You wanted him to succeed. Knowing that he's the bad guy. Well, also you want him to succeed because as I leaned over like 2 or 3 times, I'm just like, such a good bad guy.
Yeah.
We needed another good bad guy.
Right.
So that was the best part of the plot. And also I will say this, it's one of the first times that in an MCU movie where we have like the faceless bad guy army fighting another faceless bad guy army in the third act type thing.
They had a pretty big face in this one.
No, funny. But that the actual stakes made sense.
Yeah.
Usually the bad guy has some crazy plot that doesn't make any sense and it's not really thought out. This one made sense. All of the dots connected. It's just that he actually lost.
Right. I don't know where he got that faceless army. And are these just all people that he just put a helmet on them? Or
no, they're robots.
Although he made them. Okay.
He made them.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why you see some of them with the little thing, the gears inside of them.
Sure.
Yeah. No, there was some really cool. Let's try to move away from the plot. Let's move into like the acting, right? I understand that you felt a disconnect between certain characters, and I can see what you're saying, but I will say that anytime that there was a character-to-character interaction, I didn't feel that they were untrue to their character, at least. Scott Lang felt like Scott Lang.
Hank was super nice in this movie.
That is the only thing that was a little weird. But I will say this.
You read his book.
Every
he quoted his book.
Damn word. I thought he was going to throw an F-bomb in there, dude. I really did.
He said GD.
Yeah. That was awesome. But here's the thing. You actually kind of called it on this, though. When we were recording this for the second one, and I was mentioning the fact that this guy is hated by everybody because he treats everyone like crap. You're like, yeah, well, that's because his wife. I think you were 100% on the button. Hank Pym's a cool dude when he's got his wife around.
I mean, he had his wife around with his ex-partner and all that stuff. They were all, right?
No. She was stuck in the quantum realm.
Huh? No. What's his name?
Bill, Dr. Bill something. You're talking about Lawrence Fishburne's character?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was around.
And they were together. They were partners and...
Right. But they weren't... We don't know exactly when that took place. We just know that Janet was around.
And then he lost her because he referenced that.
Right.
But he referenced him always being that way.
Right. You know? But we still don't know to what extent that was.
Sure.
That's the only reference we have to a like Janet Sorry, a pre-Janet Quantum Realmed version. Sure. But I think that has a lot to do with it.
Okay.
Also,
he was really nice about their indiscretions. I thought that was a really cool scene. Yeah. But the same token, it was kind of like relevant. Well, it wasn't relevant, but then it was also like, Hank, you think he would be more angry and frustrated about something like that? Yeah, he referenced, oh, well, I had my flings too. And maybe was, yeah, right.
But she went with Bill Murray?
I don't know.
She should have went with Jonathan Majors.
Yeah. Well,
I thought that was like going down, because there's that one scene where they're sitting there together and she's talking about the last thing that she said to her daughter was a lie. And
he's like, time ain't nothing but a thing, baby. Age ain't nothing but a number.
I love when I can see you wanting to say a comment and you're just waiting for me to stop talking so that you can say it. Yes. That's what was going on there. But no, overall, I feel that the acting was actually really well done.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying with the disconnect because of like the green screen aspect and whatnot. Yeah. I guess I'm more forgiving of that because I think I watch probably more stuff that has green screen.
Yeah, you probably do.
Yeah, just because I deal with more like fantasy type style stuff. Don't get me wrong, I see what you're talking about. And I think that's just
the actors.
That's what the future is.
Part of acting is not only them interacting with each other, but how they interact with the physical world around them and how they do things. Hence Brad Pitt and him eating in movies, and like why you feel like connected to him and why you think he's a better actor, because he can like eat realistically in movies, even though he's not really even eating that food.
Robert Downey Jr. does the same thing.
Right. So it's like that interaction with the physical world just wasn't there. So I felt, I'm not saying it's not a deal breaker in the movie.
And I know that's not what you're saying, but what I'm saying is I think that this is going to be the evolution of actors are going to have to learn how to be even better with less physicality.
Sure.
Just because this is the way that the world's going to go, because it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
And the volume has changed so much different things. And I agree with you. There's been like learning curves from it. Mm-hmm. But anyway, as far as like the overall like direction of everything, there's some beautiful shots, but they're all CG. So this sounds really douchebaggy, but like how much of that is actually Peyton Reed?
Right.
I don't want to credit either the cinematographer or the director, and I could be wrong on this, so I apologize if I am, but it's a CG artist.
Yeah, I think they storyboard out how they want things to look as far as angles and this, and then they just CG around that. Right?
But that's the thing, is that they storyboard it, and they're going to say, yeah, we want a circular thing here, and we want a thing here. But then the concept artists are the ones that come up with the original thought processes, and then one does get approved, and then the CG guy makes a beautiful version of that.
And the director says, I'm going to shoot my actors from this angle, and then we're going to pan over to that shot.
This is the lighting that we have in real life. We need you to match that. And like I said, I'm not trying to say they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
75% of this movie wasn't real.
Right.
And that's fair.
Realistically, yeah.
Also, there was no reason to have Bill Murray whatsoever. His character was
fan type.
That was a fan service moment that it was cool. Don't get me wrong. It was like, okay, that's that guy. But there again, if you wanted that to be interesting, then you should not have had him in the preview.
Yeah.
Because his character was such a throwaway character that he never even like showed up at the end.
Right.
We never saw him die.
I don't know. Didn't he not get eaten by the thing?
No,
the thing
because it didn't show it.
Sure.
And it's just like, it's a comic book.
Can't kill Bill Murray.
No body, no dead.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm surprised.
I'm sorry. Did he cameo in another Marvel movie that I'm thinking? I want to say so. Well, someone will correct us, I'm sure.
I could look it up, but
yeah, I don't care that much. Yeah.
As far as like I said, the directing, I don't really think I have anything good and or bad to say. I think it was just like, okay, cool. You did good. You did good casting. Sure. Okay, I'm down. Whatever. As far as like the overall relevance that this movie is going to be playing to the MCU itself, I think this is a very important movie.
Yeah. I think this movie series has done a lot to progress, as we talked about, the next phase. And
Ant-Man's the linchpin in the MCU, man.
Right. Yeah.
Who knew? The dude that talks to ants.
Yeah.
Wow. That was a Deus Ex Machina. If I will say so, though. The fact that the ants, during their shrinking process, went through 1,000 years of evolution to then create like this like incredible like thing. Like they did at least reference it in a, I wouldn't even call it a throwaway line. No, because it was like a drawing attention to it, but now we're going to move away from it. They did foreshadow it, which we both saw this. Like as soon as we saw like the ant going down as they went down, we were like, the ants.
There were some cool things they played around with in terms of mechanisms and concepts with physics and theories and whatnot, but like quantum theory but at the same time they were just kind of, they put them in and they threw them away. So the probability, right?
That was so cool.
It was cool, except for the fact that she didn't have to deal with any of that, except the fact that she was just like, he was like, oh, just focus on you. Don't look at them. And then that cured it for her.
I think her mom said that.
Someone said that.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I don't care who said it. Someone said it.
Yeah. Cause her mom was on the radio for her. And then Modoc was on the radio for,
because he was helping
Scott.
The bad guys. And they were helping the good guys. So they were doing the whole thingy, which that didn't even
back to him in a second
do a thing. But, he was at a place, but, I wasn't a huge fan of that, where like that just kind of threw away. I thought that was going to be I knew it was going to be we could all have a singular thought process and work together, and then boom,
and that made sense,
right?
And I had no problem with that. But I'm with you that all of a sudden them all just like disappearing. That's what didn't make sense. Is that it should have
still be the probabilities of
and
they're
I
only
feel
gonna
like
do one thing. How about this? You're right.
It should have had a different resolution. The same overall ending could have happened where they all like poofed, but it could have been somebody screaming, now that we have it, that they'll disappear, or like
throwaway line. They did Russell ice cream line that was funny and throwaway, but like, anyway, other big gripe for me that was consistent throughout this movie was how they instinctively know how many little things to throw to make the thing bigger or smaller, the right size. They threw all the Pym particle discs, whatever. They just like a handful of them, like they're Skittles, and they just throw it at the thing, and then it
was 5
becomes the size they want it to.
I know that didn't make any sense. And also when they did
he only threw one, it's like it didn't work. Oh, and then they both threw some. How do you know how many she's going to throw versus how many you're going to throw?
Yeah, they didn't even throw them. They were freaking like
right.
Yeah, they were like,
why wouldn't it be like a pea size then? Or why wouldn't it be like it was just
also, how about when he makes it explode near the end and he puts 5 in, 3 of them are red and 2 of them are blue.
Right. Those, and they did the same thing with that one. They were other colored ones.
Oh, they were?
Yeah,
I didn't notice that they were other ones. I thought they were all the blue ones.
Oh, that's so,
because blue is shrink and red is
and they had
grow.
They had so many of them.
That part didn't really gel right for me, but I think the one thing that okay, so the fighting, almost all the fight scenes were actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But we have to look at the evolution of the character.
Mm-hmm.
Ant-Man 1, he's apparently an Olympic level gymnast.
Hardcore
parkour, but can't fight.
No.
Hope teaches him how to fight. Hope knows how to fight.
Right.
That's established. We don't have a problem with that. He can do a couple punches. We already knew he could take a punch.
Right.
Established right away. Second movie, he can fight a little bit better, but he's still not that good.
Sure.
We see him fight in between episode. I always say episode. Between the first movie and the second movie in Captain America: Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really fight. He just kind of gets big and moves around and stuff.
Sure.
In this one, dude could fight.
Right. Right.
He even kind of did a couple good moves on Kang.
Right. Couple good
when
hits.
He was like going big size and slamming him into like the wall and stuff like that, because that was dad anger.
Right.
Right. You don't mess with a kid. That's how it works. But then when he was fighting Kang at the very end, he got a couple good licks, but he got his ass beat.
Sure.
How much of that comes from Kang being timeless? Right. And how much of that just comes from like, they can't consistently make him a good fighter?
Kang was also roughed up by the 1,000 ants that took him away. Then he somehow escaped from.
Yeah, that was another.
So there was a little bit of that. I would say maybe there was some fatigue that set in there, but even more fatigue was probably set in Scott because he was big, small, like,
right.
So he probably just wasn't as good because he was tired too.
That's fair.
And this is a guy who's a conqueror, shown to have been in many fights and battles and
killed countless worlds.
Endless. Right.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
So I was actually good with that. I'm like, oh, good. It wasn't like it was close.
Yeah, no. You know? And I did like. Okay. We got 5 minutes
popped
left.
him a couple times.
I'm gonna.
Like, okay, like he gave him a little.
Gave him a little nod, right?
Yeah.
When he. All right. So in the preview, I remember we talked about this in the first preview when Kang calls him Ant-Man, and I was like, I'm very curious how they're actually going to use that in the thing, because the way they set it up in the preview was be like, oh, he gets no respect.
Right.
He gets tons of respect.
Sure.
Except from Kang, because when Kang does it, it is the most demeaning way you can say the two words of ant and man.
Right.
The acting in that one moment was just like,
I am bigger than you. You are smaller than me.
You are not.
That's what that means.
You are such a pathetic Avenger,
man,
that you're barely even an Avenger.
Right.
The whole, are you the one with the hammer?
Right. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and that was probably one of the best jokes that Scott threw back at that.
Yeah, we get distracted. Similar physiques.
Yeah.
Great. All right, really quick, I got like 3 minutes here, and I want to talk about Modoc. Hated it.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Here's the thing.
What did I say to you in the theater?
You said it stuck out or something like that.
I said his face, it looks like a Snapchat filter.
Yes, it looks like a Snapchat filter. Here's the thing. The whole idea of Darren Cross being turned into Modoc, I love the idea.
Sure.
They were utilizing it as a joke, and that was fine. They still could have done a little better CG.
They could have done better CG.
Everything about his suit, everything like that, that was great. The arc they did, all of it. But the problem is that the face was a decision.
Right.
That was not this is the best we could do. That was a decision.
Right. Because
everything else looked so good.
Yeah.
Like, dude, they're getting really good at making some of the CG in these Marvel movies, and that was just atrocious.
It's like they took his actual face, they mapped it, and then like stretched it, and then instead of just CGing it from the ground up, which I think they should have, and if they did, then it just wasn't a good job. So
that, or if they were going to do like a blown up his head, at least kept the right proportions of his head.
Yeah.
Because that's what it really was, is that it wasn't just his head being blown up. It was his head being blown up, but then his face being stretched all the way around his head. It
looked at its best when he was dying at the end.
I agree. I think it looked less like a Snapchat filter and more like a Spy Kids movie.
Oh my gosh, that's really bad.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that it was an improvement. I'm just saying.
I think they're on the same
They're on the same level. Yeah. I did like him being back in it. I also liked how Kang treated him.
Yeah.
You do not speak in my presence. And I was like, oh.
Right.
So he's just using you.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't like that. I don't like that Cassie stopped and had to do like a little monologue with him and call him a dick, and that like
I thought that was cute.
It was cute, but then like it came back at the end, and that's why they did it.
I'm not a dick.
Right. That's why they did it. It was like we got this idea about how we're gonna do it. Right.
How are we gonna change him back into a good guy?
Right.
Because Modoc isn't supposed to be always a bad guy.
I get it. It's just from going to how that character was as the villain in the previous one.
Yes.
And then how quickly it turned and how, I just don't know.
And all of it also, when you really consider the fact that, like, depending on how we looked at it, because we even talked about this, that it's like, it was something to do with the mental aspects. Oh, sure. Okay. Really quick. We have less than a minute. Why all of a sudden now, when they're giant size, can they take their helmets off?
Yeah, especially her, Cassie.
Also,
she should have fainted.
They did show that she was about to faint, and we were like, oh, okay. But then Hope showed up, and she was fine.
Yeah.
If Hope would have shown up with a juice box, I would have been okay with it.
Right.
But like, what the heck was that?
He slept for like 3 days the first time he did that. So.
Right. And then he was able to like stay conscious a little bit.
Sure.
And after he did it for the second one.
Yeah.
But now it does make sense that he'd be like good to go.
She's a pretty good fighter too, huh?
No, she's atrocious. And the fact that she lived was a miracle.
My point.
She was playing like what's that one game, like the Forever Run game on your iPhone where you got to swipe to like dodge and stuff like that. She was hardcore parkour. Like, that's all she can do. Yeah. And shrink cop cars. That was funny. But yeah, we have 15 seconds. Do you have like a final thought?
We bashed it a lot, but it's only because I think it was in my opinion, the worst of those movies for that type of movie. It shifted it to a different type of movie.
I agree with that. So we're at the thing. We're going to do a little bit of overtime. If I was going to rank the movies, it would go 1, 3, 2.
Okay.
Only because I think overall, this one we just watched was better than the second one overall. But if we're going to go with which ones felt like the best Ant-Man movies, I'm with you. It's 1, 2, then 3.
Right.
But overall, as a movie in its own, like as far as the MCU movies,
sure,
Jonathan Majors turned it into the better one.
Yeah, he was a better villain than the previous villain,
which we talked about.
The villain in 2, right?
The villains in 2, none of them could stand on their own.
Right.
And this guy,
Majors made this movie. Yeah.
Majors just made the MCU actually have like a thread again.
Right.
So, the one last thing I will say really quick. Sorry, we're doing overtime here on this one just because the post-credit scenes. The first one was super cool. Yeah. Cool. We now know that it's like all hands on deck with the Kangs. They're all showing up from everywhere. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of them.
Yep.
And that's great. This is the first time they've referenced the Disney Plus show in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited because they said they were going to start doing this and it was going to start going back and forth and back and forth. But this is awesome. I'm now actually super excited for Loki season 2.
I know. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
You got a little Wilson in there.
Oh my gosh. Okay. But anyway, that's what we thought. Let us know in the comments below what you thought.
Yeah.
Let us know what things you're looking forward to. If you're disappointed as much as I am that they actually killed off the Conqueror version of Kang, and there better be another version that has the same outfit. But it's okay.
It was a cool outfit. It was a cool costume.
The way that they were able to transition the comic book accurate thing into real life to make it look good. Mm-hmm. Oh, we've come so far since we did a CG costume for Ryan Reynolds in Green Lantern.
Oh boy.
So anyway, make sure you check out our screen discussions on both the first and second Ant-Man as well on the channel. And then, like I said, give us a like, comment, and subscribe and all that kind of fun stuff down here at the bottoms. And until the next one, which I think we're looking into like the Creed movies next, right?
Creed movies, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we're doing next. Mm-hmm. But yeah, y'all have a great day.
Adios.